Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. And in this series, we're going to be going over Venus in the houses, okay? Venus in the houses, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about Venus in the 8th house, having Venus in the 8th house, yes. And this actual placement I actually have, so I'm actually really connected to this. But before we get into that, let's just talk about what Venus is and what the 8th house is, okay? Venus in astrology is the planet of love. And love is the energy that attracts us humans together. This is why we come together. This is why we want to date each other and be in relationships and get married. It's because of love. It's that warmth, that feeling. But even deeper, Venus is about balance, okay? Venus rules Libra. It's the scales, and it balances things out. So when you think about love, love is like what it creates us. It makes us come together. It's relationships. And when we think about our partners, our relationships, they like balance us out, okay? Like the yin and yang energy, you know? Who you are to me. So again, that's that Venus energy. And Venus also deals with beauty and art and creativity, because this is how we attract, okay, us together. So, you know, you think about beauty and attraction, you know, we come together because we're attracted to each other. And that's that, again, that Venus energy working, okay? This is the planet of love, beauty, dating, attraction, and also justice and peace, because again, the scales, it's about balancing things out. So this is how we have all of this in reality. Venus is responsible for the peace and the justice and the balance, okay? And that's what love does, okay? And then you have the 8th house. The 8th house is the house ruled by Scorpio, deals with transformations, okay? But the biggest ones by facing your fears. It goes to the deepest, darkest roots of you, your depression, your secrets, taboo, okay? Sad feelings, dark feelings, feelings that are hidden because you have shame in them, okay? This is a very emotional house, okay? Very dramatic house in that sense, but it's all for your transformation. You got to face these dark fears in order to transform and to become powerful. It's all about soul transformation. So 8th house deals with all our biggest traumas, all our biggest fears, our darkest emotions. Very emotional, very intense house, okay? Also dealing with death, because in order for us to transform, we have to go through the period of death, okay? With that being said, Venus in the 8th house, the first thing I can say about this is these people are deep lovers, okay? Deep lovers. This is not you cannot like date these people for fun. They're very much all or nothing, because the 8th house is very much all or nothing. 8th house is serious, so it wants to get down to the core. So with Venus dealing with your love life and how you make relationships, it's gonna be no different. You want all or nothing with your relationships. Okay, these people, when it comes to like dating and getting into like romance and stuff, they're like serious. They want full commitment. They want to know the deepest, darkest secrets of this person. They want to know their whole depth. They want that person to commit to them, because these people will commit all to a person. So it's very all or nothing. They like to give their all, and they want the same in return. And this can also create trust issues, you know, strong boundaries, trust issues with people, because you know, if you're this serious, you're not taking any foolery, you're not taking anything in the middle, you know, you're not going to take any BS, okay? You're like very cutthroat with this placement, Venus in the 8th house. So yes, their dating style, the romantic style is very cutthroat, very straight to the point. And it can also be even fear motivated in a bit, because they've dealt with so much pain in terms of like romance and stuff like that. Or it could have been challenged. So based off of that, they react by being super, super intense, super serious, and super like, you're either going to commit to me fully or I don't want none of you at all. Very Venus in 8th house. So this is a serious placement. And like I said, I have this placement, so I know. Also with this placement, this, you know, you got to be careful, because you can create lots of relationships, toxic kind of relationships, through trauma bonding. Okay, now it doesn't have to be so negative, okay? Because people like to assume that if you connect to someone based off of trauma, that it will be unhealthy, and it is unhealthy. I'm not even gonna argue that. Yes, trauma bonding is very unhealthy, but it can also just mean that you bond with someone who's dealt with trauma, and because they have that experience, they have depth, and because your Venus is the 8th house, you only connect and relate to people who have depth. So I just want to be careful with saying trauma bonding, because I don't want to assume that it's always going to be you connect. Venus and 8th house people only connect to people who only have toxic things to throw at them. That's not necessarily true. Everyone has a different level of health. So the trauma bonding just means that Venus and 8th house people connect to people who have experience in life that took them there. Okay? Because like, if you're a very serious emotional person, you're going to connect to other people who are that way. You're not going to be able to deal with the lightness, okay? Because it's going to feel superficial because you've dealt with things. So it only makes sense for you to be a match to someone who's also dealt with things too. And in order for them to be deep and serious, they would have to have those experiences too. So that's what I mean about the trauma bonding, is that it could be toxic, but it could also just mean that you're a match to people who have depth, who've been through things, so that they can relate to you. Okay, but yes, trauma bonding is definitely a huge thing. You have to be careful with this placement, because you can also be attracted to, toxicity. You like intensity in a relationship. So if you don't have that, you feel like there's a lack of passion, when really it's just peace. If you want someone who's intense, you have to make sure it's not toxic intensity, so you got to be careful with that, because sometimes people will explain this placement like, oh, they're attracted to toxic people, and it's like there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, the higher vibration is someone who's intense, someone who's emotionally passionate, who has that boiling in them. There's a healthier version of that, and there's nothing wrong with being attracted to that. Just be careful, because there's a fine line. It can easily be toxic, and you can see that intensity, which is toxic, as something attractive. So be careful with Venus 8th house people, because you guys like the drama. All right, I'm just gonna be honest. You're attracted to the drama. You're attracted to intensity. And I'm here as a Venus and 8th house person to let y'all know that you can have this in a healthy way. I feel like a lot of people explain this placement like, oh, you're naturally just going to always be in the most lowest version or vibration of this energy. But no, you can attract someone who's very intense and passionate about you, and they have deep feelings and connection with you, and they're very passionate with you, and that could be in a higher vibration. But as 8th house people, it's our responsibility to be able to be in that higher vibration, and we have to go through transformation. So be careful not to be addicted or get caught up into a toxic relationship. And with the 8th house, there's levels to it. I always feel like people with this placement do have to go through a couple, maybe just not a couple, I don't want so many, but just maybe some bad relationships in order to learn from those to get better. Okay, 8th house is a process, and it takes you to an emotional journey. So you probably just need to learn from these bad relationships, okay? But learn from them. Be conscious of them, okay? Another thing I would have to say is that people with Venus in the 8th house are very intuitive, okay? So you're putting this like relationship energy into this very intuitive house. So, they connect with people deeply, and they feel people's energies deeply in relationships. So these people see through the BS, okay? They have, that radar. So like I said again, Venus and 8th house people use that radar to make sure you're not getting yourself in a toxic relationship, all right? All right? Use that radar to check the red flags, because some of those red flags you guys are really attracted to. And you got to use your radar, use that psychic ability in the 8th house to detect whether this is a positive intensity or a negative type of intensity. And, there's a fine line here in the 8th house. It easily becomes toxic. So, yes, learn from your relationships, okay? This is a placement to learn the lessons so that you can become stronger, and you can become, very built to see through the BS. and built a really strong, passionate relationship. Also, with Venus in the 8th house, your femininity could have been challenged. Maybe just connecting to your feminine energy could have been very challenged, okay? Whatever energies are in the 8th house, they're going to be challenged, especially on an emotional level. So there could have been trauma anytime you connected to your feminine energy, okay? It met with a lot of, like, you know, bullying or, like, limitations or obstacles so deeply, okay? So you have to reconnect and heal that part of you. All right, Venus in the 8th house, people can be traumatized by feminine energy because they've been through a lot of challenges, but you're supposed to re-own that and transform with that. You know, with the Venus in the 8th house, you know, you can become a very powerful feminine, a very intuitive feminine, because you're taking this Venus energy and you're giving it depth, all right? So don't disabandon your femininity. You know, you just have to strengthen it. Okay, you just have to give it more intuition. All right, Venus the 8th house, you can abandon your femininity, not want to dress up, not want to do anything that correlates to feminine energy. And that's not the point. I know you've been through lots of trauma dealing with feminine energy, but the point is truly to have a stronger sense of feminine energy. A feminine energy that's not only cute and mental and flighty, but also has depth, has intuition. You're supposed to become a powerful feminine. All right, a feminine that's intuitive. So think of it that way. Think of these are obstacles to overcome, because the feminine energy is definitely challenged, and Venus can feel like almost in prison sometimes in the 8th house, okay? So you gotta gain your strength and regain your power, all right? And transform that Venus energy. Also, Venus in the 8th house, you guys are very attractive in a very mysterious way. Okay, so it's not going to be so upfront. Okay, just like we said in Venus in the 1st house or Venus in the 7th house too, because they have lots of style and fashion and beauty. Venus in the 8th house, you don't necessarily have to have that. You know, like I explained, the abandonment of your femininity or your feminine energy being challenged. You know, you could just have this aura, you know, and a very sexual one too, very deep, very mysterious, where people are very attracted to you. But it's an inner attraction. It's deep. It's almost like people want to, like, you know, you kind of like swamp people in, you know. So that is also a very big part of you, and very sexual type of attraction. Very sexual. 8th house is very sexual. It's very deep. And again, it just brings this kind of mysterious sexual appeal. I'm gonna say Venus 8th house people, it's like you guys just have this aura where it's just like, ooh. So it's a very deep, dark, sexy, and it's hot. So be very aware of that, Venus in 8th house people. And be careful of that, because you can attract a lot of dark energy too. So people who just want to have sex with you, just want to get their way with you, because you got to remember this is the 8th house. Power struggles. So your relationships, you can just attract a lot of unwanted sexual energy, is basically what I'm saying. A lot of unwanted sexual energy, a lot of people who want to just like get with you and just like, you know, it's just like, So be careful, because Venus is very attractive here, but Venus is in the 8th house, the house of demons. Not saying you only gonna attract demons, but part of Venus being in the 8th house, the 8th house is all about challenges. So Venus has to learn how to discern what is real attraction and what is straight demonic. Okay, and that's part of your test here with Venus in the 8th house. So you're going to attract a lot of energy, but it could be very negative sexual energy that's unwanted. So be able to create that discern. And this is, again, all a part of becoming a stronger Venus. This is how the 8th house is strengthening yourself, by having that strong discernment and seeing through the BS, okay? Because you're going to be very attractive here. But unlike the 7th house, which is attracting a lot of love and beauty and dating and romance, the 8th house, it could be a lot of like sexual people who just want to like mooch on your sexual energy and just attracted to you on a very like greedy way. You know, it's not balanced like the Venus in 7th house. So it's a part of your lesson, so learn that. Also, yes, Venus in the 8th house, I see this is a very much karma when it comes to your love life. So karma in the sense of like you're learning how to heal these deep wounds that come with romance and relationships. 8th house is very karmic. It's very much about manifesting, you know, the issues in your past lives, if you believe in that or not. But yes, so it is a challenge, and it's very karmic. So you can look at whatever energies is in the 8th house is sort of like a karmic test. So your Venus being here about love and romance, dating, love, and romance and partnerships is a lesson for you to learn. And this is why you're going through all these obstacles and challenge Venus and 8th house people, is because you're trying to transform, and you're trying to like get rid of all this karma dealing with relationships and love, and learning it on the deepest level so that you can transform. And you will attract that partner. I'm telling you, once you really learn these lessons with Venus in 8th house, you actually attract someone who's very passionate, very intense, very emotionally stimulating, and loyal to you. You know, that deep relationship that you want. But you just got to learn these lessons. So understand this as your romance and dating love life going through a karmic cycle with the Venus in 8th house. Also, I always like to say, Venus in the 8th house, I believe personally that this could be a good placement for beautiful artistry in a deep level. So say if you write poetry, you know, you could write some deep, dark poems that have so much depth. Music, okay, because, you know, 8th house is a very watery house. It's a water house. It's ruled by Scorpio, and I say, you know, music is water. It's the vibrations, it's the waves, it's the sound waves. So people active in water houses are very in tune, so you can even do very deep, dark, romantic music, you know, music dealing with like deep emotions and heartbreak and stuff like that. Like the artistry in this placement can be very dark, but also very deep and touching and soul touching. You know, these are people who have a taste for art and romance that's deep and touches your soul. You know, there's so much depth with that. So that is Venus in the 8th house. You know, I have this placement, so I know it's a challenge, you know, in the love life. But it's here to help you become stronger, become more discerned, have more boundaries when it comes to love. Knowing your boundaries, knowing not to be taken advantage of. This is a placement all for that, okay? Because you're going to be so in tune, and you're going to deal with people pushing your boundaries in love, and it's going to push you to have stronger boundaries. So don't get so distraught. You know, it is a hard placement. I will not say it isn't, but it's also become so much easier once you learn the lessons, okay? And once you're able to face those demons, it becomes so much easier, and you really become a master in love. Like, you're the person that no one can waste your time. Venus the 8th house people, you know, once they learn their lessons, you cannot waste this person's time at all. You know, and the quicker you learn these lessons, Venus the 8th house people, the more time you have for an enjoyable love life. So that is Venus in the 8th house. I hope you guys enjoyed that, okay? Very intuitive lovers, deep lovers. And if you guys enjoyed that, please book a reading with me. I do astro and birth natal chart readings, okay? Also, check out my music on Spotify, Apple, and here on YouTube. I have all the links you need in the description box below. And I'll check you guys out on the next video.
They can't believe my growth. They see the change, the tone, but they couldn't handle that. Nope, they couldn't